All right. Good evening. I call this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors to order on Thursday, May 7th at 6:30 p.m., and we have a quorum in attendance. May is Asian Pacific Islander American Heritage Month, and I invite our community to join us in celebrating Asian and Pacific Islander Americans who have contributed to our state's rich history, economy, and culture. The week of May 4th through May 8th is Licensed Staff Appreciation Week. We ask our community to join us in celebrating licensed staff who continually strive to promote high expectations, cultural understanding, and prepare graduates who are inspired and empowered to strengthen the quality of life in our local and global communities. First on the agenda is community comments. Community comments are an opportunity for our community to share their ideas and opinions with the board. Input is welcome and valued. It is our duty to keep it safe and respectful for everyone, students, staff, and our community. This is not a time for discussion or debate. The board is restricted from hearing and will not consider complaints regarding any individual district staff member or any person connected with the district. Letters to the board are always welcome, and each of us reads the input. Requests for information should be made as outlined in policy KBA-AR. So we have 4 speakers this evening. Our first speaker is Emily Moore. Emily is not here? All right. Okay, we will move on. Gabrielle Torres. Okay, and if you could please, welcome, Gabrielle. You will have up to 3 minutes to speak. State your name, city of residence, and group, and then the clock will begin.
I am Gabrielle Torres, and I am with Billquest Elementary. I'm a parent of 2 children there. For months, I've done everything the district has asked me to. I have followed procedure, documented concerns, attempted meetings. I've sent emails, filed complaints. I've waited for responses, and I have tried to collaborate with all of you. And yet, nothing has changed. We're here for a second month, and nothing has changed. This is happening across your district with 32 schools. I have personally logged 49 phone calls, 268 emails, participated in 26 district meetings. And I have attended to 2 school board meetings in an effort to advocate for student accountability and transparency. And I am only one parent from one of your schools. What if one parent from each of your schools came to you? That would be 1,568 phone calls, 8,578 emails, and 832 district meetings. This is a systemic issue, and you guys aren't doing anything. I've watched my children come home scared, anxious, emotionally impacted by what they're experiencing and witnessing at school. And after all that, instead of accountability from you and meaningful change from you, I have been threatened by district staff members. I have been volunteering at this school all year long and have seen the most horrific things. And yet I come to all of you and I've asked for help, and none of you do anything. And I do all that and get threatened. Not fun. I have constantly response from the district is always a delay, a deflection, minimizing, and procedural games instead of action. When is enough enough? When is there enough emails, enough calls, enough of us coming, enough of you guys doing something? Are you going to ever stand up and actually do something? We've sent emails. I've asked for help. I've pleaded and emailed the board. Nothing. I get responses. I put district complaints against people and nothing happens. I have unilaterally, my dates get changed. So then nothing happens with those. It seems as if you guys follow a different rule book and you don't allow us the book, so we can't play by the right rules. It doesn't make any sense of why you guys cannot do your jobs and continue to keep the kids safe at these schools. What do we have to do to get help? And I'm tired of seeing this every day. And now we're coming again to the end of the school year and hoping you guys will help us, but I'm guessing we'll have to be doing this all again next year. I'm also pleading to other families that are out here, if they would like to come and help us join the fight. We have an email. It's emandgab@2026@gmail.com. EMANDGAB2026@gmail.com, and come help us fight for our rights.
All right, next is Kalina Fay, I believe. I'm saying that correctly. All right, and if you can come on up, if you you will have 3 minutes to speak. Welcome. State your name, the city of residence, and a group, if any, that you represent, and then the clock will begin.
Kalina Fay, city of residence is Milwaukee. We've lived there for 22 years. Our school is Billquest Elementary. My name is Kalina Fay. I'm presenting the parent of Ethan Fay. He's a 7-year-old multi-racial Pacific Islander child. He's disabled, autistic student with an IEP in the North Clackamas School District. I am here because my child has been seriously injured multiple times at the school. I no longer feel confident that student safety is being prioritized by Billquest or the North Clackamas School District. Ethan is autistic, has serious medical and developmental vulnerabilities that make his physical and emotional safety especially critical. Because of his disabilities, he requires supervision, trauma-informed support, consistent implementation of his IEP protections. Instead, throughout the school year, Ethan has experienced repetitive physical assaults, injuries, emotional harm, ongoing failure to protect him while under the care of the district while I've been at work. Most recently, Ethan has sustained a concussion, being physically assaulted with a hockey stick at school. A concussion is a traumatic brain injury, not a minor incident. Yet, I did not receive a formal incident report or timely communication explaining what occurred, what actions were taken, or how the school intended to prevent this from happening. What is especially alarming is this is not an isolated incident. Ethan had a stick lodged in his head, stitches, been punched in the chest with his cardiac monitor, hit in the head multiple times, kicked across the body in multiple locations, recently sexually assaulted by another student in the groin and in the butt, eyes poked multiple times by other students, called derogatory names, threatened to be killed, pushed down the stairs of the bus, stomped on his leg and his back, leaving multiple bruises and contusions that have all been medically documented. These incidents represent serious failures of student supervision, communication, the duty, and the care owed to a disabled child under an IDEA and Section 504 and his IEP, the school and the school district. Beyond that, beyond the physical injuries, I need this board to understand that the trauma has caused my child. I have watched Ethan become increasingly fearful, anxious, emotionally dysregulated, traumatized by his school environment. I have watched my child puke and cry when I've had to go to the hospital to work a 12-hour shift because he does not want his mommy to go to work because he's in fear of going to his school and puke all over me and then have to still go and perform my job because I take care of people. School place should not be where disabled children feel, they should be where disabled children feel safe and protected. Instead, my child has been associating school with fear, violent, and emotional distress. What is especially upsetting throughout this process is the repeated pattern focused on Ethan's emotional action instead of addressing repeated violence. There's more to this, but I'm just asking you guys to seriously do something.
All right, thank you. And Lindsay Domenico, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. Okay, thank you for the correction. So Lindsay, if you could come on up, and you're a final speaker of the night. If you could give us your name, your city of residence, and any group that you represent, and then your time will begin.
Okay. My name is Lindsay Domenico. I live in Milwaukee. I work at Billquist, and I have a daughter in 6th grade at Round. Now, I wanted to speak tonight because I believe a lot of the frustration felt by parents and staff alike could be assuaged by communicating more information clearly. Parents want to know why a student is allowed back in the classroom after a tantrum, why their placement has not changed, why we do not put hands on children. These things can be easily explained by being transparent about Oregon law and district policy. All children are entitled to free, appropriate education regardless of their disability. Oregon Law 581-015-2040. While we cannot share the details of specific students, the process for a student to change placement can be explained, as well as why it is not an immediate or quick process. Instead of "we can't put hands on children," explain the process required to put a hold in place and why it is used as a last resort. I am asking the board, administration, and anyone else with the power to enact change to provide parents and caregivers with more information so they may better understand behavior intervention and how it works in schools. At the same time, I would like to request that the board add additional guidelines and expectations of volunteers in our schools. What is currently in the Student and Family Handbook is not sufficient. Clear guidelines and expectations, as well as consequences for when rules are not followed, would cut down on some of the misunderstandings experienced between staff, students, and volunteers. Expectations such as respecting the privacy of students by staying with the classrooms or grades that you are working with, instead of exploring classrooms and wandering the school. Respecting the privacy by not observing classrooms or grades where you're not working and your child is not attending. And what steps there are if there are no additional tasks for a volunteer. Volunteering is a privilege, not a right. And like all privileges, it can and should be revoked if it is not being done properly. We provide our students with clear expectations and outlined consequences. I believe it is just as important for the adults in the building. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Oh, okay. Excellent. Thank you. So we do have Emily. She is online tonight, not in the room. So Emily Moore, if you could state your name, your city of residence, and any group that you represent, and then your 3 minutes will begin. Okay. All right. Thank you. So she departed the waiting room. So we will now move on. Our native land acknowledgement. We will have the native land acknowledgement video made by our students.
We acknowledge the land on which we sit, in which we call the North Clackamas School District, rest on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Molalla, and the Clackamas.
We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn,
and work and be a community on this land.
and we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region.
We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation
That affected the Indigenous and Native families, both past and present,
and that will affect those in the future.
And honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities.
pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Excuse me. Thank you. Board members, please stand, and Director Olson, will you please lead the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. Next on our agenda is our consent agenda. In the board packet, directors, you will find the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Not everybody at once. All right. It has been properly moved by Director Wachter and seconded by Director McVeigh. I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes with a vote of 6-0. Thank you. And next on the agenda is our Youth Equity Advisory Committee. I welcome Chief of Student and Family Services, Kalia Williams Rodriguez, who will introduce our guests. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday. Good to be here as always. This is one of the highlights of our school board meeting, and we have some students here who will introduce themselves in just a little bit. Actually, let's do it now. We'll start with Nora.
Hello, my name is Nora Reed. I am a junior at Rex Putnam High School, and it's lovely to be here.
Hi, I'm Hannah Johannes. I'm a sophomore at Clackamas, and I'm so excited to be here.
My name is Willow Ray. I attend Milwaukee High School, and I'm currently a freshman, and I'm so glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Kim Amador, and I'm a college and career readiness TOSA, and I'm really excited to be here as well. Thank you. So just as a reminder, the Youth Equity Advisory Committee provides the opportunity for students to share their perspectives and lived experiences with district leadership, and that helps to guide the decision-making process in order to enhance the overall student experience. At the beginning of this school year, we were so excited to have, for our fourth year, over 60 students join the Youth Equity Advisory Committee from our middle schools and our high schools. And then since then, we've had an average of about 20 to 25 students attend each meeting. Tonight, students will share their perspectives from their peers across the district from middle schools and high schools. So our goal is to address each point on the compass of our strategic plan with each and every single student at the core of our purpose. So we build art of community every time that we meet, and this is an intentionally built by selecting one statement to hold as an anchor for our time together. And ultimately what that does is create a brave and a safe space for us during our time. At the beginning of the year, we brainstormed with students their thoughts about the most relevant topics to be explored during our time together. And so these are kind of the main points here, everything from safety, student rights, mental health and wellness, learning environment, post-secondary options, nutrition, and facilities. And based on that information, we have addressed each topic by having meaningful conversations with leaders in each field during our meetings.
What I'll share with you now is a sneak peek of our Youth Choose survey results. It's a broad range of questions and topics you can see here. So we're going to highlight briefly some of the results of our elementary, middle, and high school students. The students took the survey February 2nd to the 27th, so during the month of February. About a 40-minute survey, you would say? About 30-40 minutes. So these are the topics that go into particular categories. For our elementary schools, you will see some patterns and trends over time. We are in our 8th year with the Youth Choose survey, and the range for our elementary students starting at 3rd grade, so they take it 3rd through 5th grade, is 1 through 3. And we have about 28 districts in the state of Oregon who also participate in the Youth Choose survey. And so you can see the percentile as it moves over the years. We see some areas of, for sure, areas of growth, as well as some areas that we want to pay attention to. So that's for our elementary students. Middle school students, again, you can see some patterns here. Their questions range from 1 to 5. And we have students in our 6th through 8th grade classrooms. We are excited about the growth we are seeing here. You can probably see some trends during a particular year, and then you can see some growth and data that we're paying attention to as well. For our high school students, again, this is our comprehensive high schools as well as other high schools in our school district. We are excited about the growth and opportunities that we've been paying attention to. And you can see again the scores that the students respond to are 1 through 5. And we are excited about the growth and areas that we will continue to put our resources and effort into. So again, a highlight of our work throughout the years. This is a slide where we're going to listen to the voices of our students. During the month of February, when we presented at the last school board meeting, there were some topics that surfaced, and we had a meeting last month, seems so long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and it was a roundtable discussion experience where we had different administrators and colleagues join us in the room to talk about these particular topics. So I'm going to open up the space for Nora to share what you'll hear a little bit about what surfaced and future direction.
Thank you. So just a reminder, I'm representing Rex Putnam High School, and I will also be representing Happy Valley Middle School today. For Rex Putnam High School, we had 2 major topics, which was privacy and bullying and traffic safety within our parking lot. And for privacy and bullying, we got a positive response of the district mentioning how they are going to be committing to reviewing costs of going over what needs to be replaced and what should be improved on over the next 6 months. And then for traffic safety, they are going to go out and request to the county who maintains these materials to see what else can be improved, especially with flashing lights and traffic signs. And for Happy Valley Middle School, the topic was accessibility and campus safety, and the district's response was that they will commit to reviewing the concern around hallways and other areas where updating is needed, and they are going to address these ongoing concerns. So we are loving the positive feedback.
Thank you. I'm going to be representing Clackamas High School and Rock Creek Middle School. And for Clackamas High School, there's concerns with communal spaces and furniture. And the district responded by saying that they will commit to completing a survey of the needs and to determine the feasibility and associated costs over the next 6 months, which is awesome that we're seeing progress. And for Rock Creek Middle School, there is concerns with maintenance and equipment, and they responded by saying we can commit to completing a survey of furniture needs to determine the feasibility and associated costs over the next 6 months, and we'll do an audit of the bottle refillers as well. So that would be awesome. Thank you.
So again, I'm here representing Milwaukee High School. And so throughout this year, the 2 topics that we've been focused on is safety and sensors and the bathrooms and privacy. The response from the district was we can commit to reviewing costs of replacing stalls with floor to ceiling stalls over the next 6 months.
And so to go over some accomplishments and highlights that specifically Rex Putnam and other schools have been seeing is that according to Rex Putnam Student Council, their annual Kingsman Carnival raised about $3,000 for the Wichita Center. So we are very excited about that. Rex Putnam and other high schools in the area have made it to state for speech and debate, and as well as their choir. So that's also exciting. We have received 2 new sports, boys volleyball and girls flag football. In each, we are seeing great participation and immense positive feedback. And for all high schools, prom and senior assemblies are coming up. So come and show your support if you would like to do so.
Yes, those are all really exciting. Clackamas, and in combination with other schools in our district, is hosting a cultural night on May 23rd, which is something we're really looking forward to. Track and field has just been a success for like all the middle schools and high schoolers, which is really exciting. I'm a part of it too, so I'm happy. And yeah, prom is happening for all our high schoolers, and we're all excited. And one highlight for the middle schoolers are affinity group field trips, which is awesome for them to experience and their culture.
So an accomplishment at Milwaukee was that as of recently, the speech and debate team for Milwaukee and Milwaukee Academy of the Arts has recently placed top 10 for team GPA overall by OSAA speech and debate with a 3.0 .79 GPA. And then also we have as well senior week and graduation stuff coming up. We also have fun events like races, sports events, and much more that will be coming soon.
All right, so we'd for this next topic, we'd love to discuss what it looks like when educators and students partner together towards enhancing the student experience. And this is for schools across the board, but we will be speaking individually. To start off, we have seen this in a few schools, but establishing a principal advisory council in more schools we think would be a beneficial idea. The idea of it is a place where students can come together at a frequently occurring time or whenever is beneficiary to directly speak to their principals about their school issue rather than coming constantly to the board to discuss issues that can be fixed just on home grounds. And then having more club advisors where staff are communicating and collaborating with students who want to participate and show interest in the different clubs so we can create more of a connection with students and staffs, not just teachers. And then for the last one is that we would like to really see administration on the floor, not just teachers, because as we know that teachers have a strong bond with students already. But a big issue, especially at our high schools, is that students have a bit of a fear around administration. So having them on the floor, helping and growing relationships with students, would we feel would be beneficiary, not just for teachers, but for everyone at the school themselves.
I would agree with that 100%. Yeah. Especially like the administration gap, like the just relationship gap between administration and students. I know some students at my school don't even know my principal. Like it's very concerning. But overall, to add on to that, we also think that when educators and students partner together to enhance student experience, it will look like when all experiences are validated and there's a welcoming environment, as well as patience from teachers, communication and teamwork, acceptance and accommodations for students and teachers.
I also agree with what Nora and they said. Sorry. So, yeah, what it looks like when educators and students partner together towards enhancing student experience is definitely being welcoming and having a safe environment where students can come to school and actually want to learn. Um, I will also mention that our health center, which is one of the many here in the district, is there to help students educate and spread awareness on many things such as maybe sexual health, which is one of the main reasons why that we have the health center at Milwaukee. They also can assist with many other things such as if you need to get a physical form, if you need to get tested for anything, and also they have sources there for you to go to if you need anything.
And now we just like to go over what we have learned from the Youth Equity Committee. And I'm not just speaking for myself, but for others that cannot attend tonight, as there are more of us. But so instead of I'll be saying we used to think that students were just a number or an average data that the board looks at to see how they can improve how they are doing themselves. But now we know that we are a resource for the district and issues can be brought up and students all across the district should know this, not just those in the Youth Equity Committee.
Also, I'll be speaking as a we used to think that um our problems can't be addressed and that they will no action will be happened, but now we know that there are multiple collaborators into fixing the issues that go into our schools and it's not just a simple one and done.
So at Milwaukee, I used to think that the pilot of our Halo sensors are effective, which I will actually take a moment and tell about the Halo sensors. So they are basically installed at our school's bathrooms for to detect if students vape in our school bathrooms, which are really effective because they let out a noise whenever students vape, obviously, in the bathroom. They're really effective, but now I know that we've sort of started to see a trend at our school as well, where students will find a workaround to continue vaping. So, for example, at our school, students sometimes would get a staff's badge to maybe go into the elevators that are accessed. And we would basically call it a hot box because there's no sensors in the elevators where students would go and vape in there. So hopefully we can maybe talk or sorry. Hopefully there is a solution we can that our administrators and staff can come up with in order to resolve on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna wrap up just a little bit. The word affinity group was mentioned with the field trips, and I wanted to mention we do have affinity groups across our middle and high schools. Nelson, this is a podcast that Nelson High School participated in, and if you get a chance to hear it, it's really strong around the the benefit and the reason to have affinity groups in our school district. So that's representative of Nelson High School who's unable to be here tonight. So we're going to open this up for a thank you, and we can be available for questions and discussion.
All right, thank you. Directors, does anyone have any questions or comments? Director McVeigh.
Willow, I've forgotten people's names too that I've known for years, so don't be offended. I just really applied your efforts on trying to solve the problems at the grassroots level and going to the principal. And I know they can be resolved with youth like you and when it's brought to their attention, because there's a lot to have our attention on, and sometimes things get overlooked. So really applaud your efforts on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other comments from our board members? Director Wachter.
Thank you so much for being here tonight and all the good work that you've been doing. I really appreciate the solutions focus too, and not only identifying problems, but thinking about options and how the system actually functions to create solutions. I really think that's powerful. Thanks for your involvement and your just bravery in stepping into this room tonight and being in front of the microphone and online also and sharing what matters to you. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thanks for being an active part of our educational community.
Director Kemp.
Yeah, again, I want to say thanks. I appreciate hearing from the students, and I, like the others have mentioned, I like the idea of trying to solve things at the local level. That's a really much easier way oftentimes to solve things. And also bringing a problem to someone's attention is they may not even be aware that there is an issue. And there's a lot of things people have on their plate, and just things get overlooked. So that's great. Great way for you guys to do it. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one last thing, because I know that there are more than just people in this room watching tonight. And for Teacher Appreciation Week, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you guys, but also our teachers who dedicate every day of their lives to teaching our generations and making sure that the future is shaped in a beneficiary way where we are moving forward with history and not going backwards. So thank you to everyone who dedicates their time to this district.
Thank you. Any other director have a comment or a question?
I have a follow-up question. Is that okay?
Director McVeigh.
On the Oregon scores, do we know if, and maybe we don't know, any of those are peer groups, like the top 10 districts, or is it just a smattering of school districts across the state?
Yeah, second one, the smattering across the state. But we are able to disaggregate data in many ways within our school district.
Okay. Director Olson.
I just want to say great job with the summary. There were some rich conversations last week at those tables, and I was taking copious notes, and I could not have summarized it as and brought forth like the themes like you guys did. So I appreciate you bringing those to the broader audience. You're right. You are a resource for our district. You are the best resource for our district. We are here to serve you. And I love that you said that we will know we have effective partnership when all experiences are validated. And I just continue to encourage you to talk to your friends about how they can be a voice and how they can be advocates for their experiences and what they need in order for the culture and the engagement and the relationships to feel validated. Even though, the adults do have a lot on their plates or, don't always have the attention on all of the problems. We need you to be continuing to bring those things forward and pushing those opportunities for engagement. So thank you again.
And I want to echo Director Olson. Youth Equity is one of my favorite committees because there's a lot of truth in the room. And I want to say two things. That first of all, Kalia and Kim, the meeting is ran for solutions. And the room is collaborative and it's safe. And even when the opinions are icky and hard and don't feel very good, you still make space for it. So first of all, that's why it's so successful. And we have 60 kids that want to be on this committee. But the real stars are you. And you know how much we appreciate hearing from you. And when the youth truth data was brought out at the last meeting, it was amazing the questions that they had about the data, about the numbers, and really thinking theoretically about the numbers and what does that mean? And what does that mean for us? And what does that number equate to? It was wonderful to see the work in the room. So we are always thrilled to have you. I hope that our community realizes we are looking at our future leaders. These are our teachers, the principals, the bank managers, the people that are going to be running this city and this state and hopefully and even beyond eventually. But it all starts here, learning how to be an advocate for yourself, learning how to go to the source to fix problems. That yes, it's nice to be in a space where you can be honest and vulnerable, but then what do we do with that? And how do we fix it? So just applaud you so much. And I'm looking forward to our field trip next month. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Absolutely. All right, next on our agenda, which I don't believe we've had them for a while. So this is going to be board reports. So customarily, board members will report on their activity within the district each month, and this time is set aside for our board members to share. Director Dobson.
So that is customarily what our board report time is for, but it is also the only time that we have to just share with you all our thoughts, things we're thinking about, and I am going to take advantage of that at this time to say that in addition to May being Asian American Heritage Month, it is also Jewish American Heritage Month, a time when we recognize and celebrate the extraordinary contributions that Jewish Americans have made to our country and our communities. Jewish Americans have helped shape our life in countless ways through science and medicine, public service and education, civil rights advocacy, the arts, business, and our democratic institutions. Their story is deeply woven into the story of America. That is what makes the rise in anti-Semitism that we are seeing today so troubling. Around the world, across the country, and increasingly in our schools, Jewish families are experiencing a level of fear and hostility that many hoped had been left in the past. And yesterday, that became personal for my family when my daughter experienced an anti-Semitic incident at her high school in the district. She came home carrying something that no child should have to carry: the feeling that she was not welcome because of who she is. I know everyone in this room wants our schools to be places where every child feels safe, valued, and protected. That commitment has to include Jewish students too. We have worked hard as a district to build a culture where identity-based hate is taken seriously, but I want to make sure that NCSD addresses anti-Semitism with the urgency, visibility, and consistency that this moment requires. Jewish students and families should not have to wonder whether these incidents will be clearly condemned, whether staff are equipped to respond appropriately, or whether their experiences are fully understood and taken seriously. This district has an opportunity to lead with clarity and compassion by responding consistently to anti-Semitism, by educating students about the real harm that it causes, and by making it unmistakably clear that hate has no home here. The values we teach our children are measured in moments like this. This is our chance to show students that belonging is not conditional, that dignity matters for everyone, and that when any group is targeted, we stand together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dobson. Director Kemp.
As far as activities, it's primarily been bargaining sessions and budget committee and benefits committee. And the bargaining sessions have been rather long meetings, so that's the extent of it.
All right. And thank you for your service on those committees. Appreciate it. Director Olson.
Yeah, as far as activities, likewise, primarily budget, youth equity, which is my favorite. And I did want to take the opportunity to just express my appreciation and how grateful I am to the district and all of the work that went into the summer learning grant application. Congratulations on receiving that. And I am grateful for the opportunities that our students are going to have this summer to have extended school year learning and enrichment opportunities.
Thank you. Director Wachter.
Thank you, Chair. I think most of the activity I can summarize into budget committee time. And I'll just take a minute to say that I really appreciate the volunteers who are showing up for all of those budget committee informational meetings. They are much wiser on the financials of the district than I ever imagined, and their questions are super sharp and spot on every time. So I really wanted just to thank them for their service. There's some significant, obviously, headwinds that the school districts across Oregon are facing. And I can see that there's a lot of clarity around how North Clackamas School District will respond and will keep quality first for our students. So really proud to be part of that process and grateful for those volunteers.
All right. Thank you. Director McVeigh.
Well, Director Kemp and I are attached at the hip because we have the same committees, but I had to miss a few things in April, and but bargaining is a hot topic, and I just want to thank all the members of that are participating in those meetings, and just a reminder what our North Star is, and 3 of them were sitting up in the room today, and that is our North Star, and that's the students of this district. So that's it.
All right, thank you. And I just wanted to briefly say I was so appreciative to be able to attend the National School Board Association conference in San Antonio, Texas with Director Tamtrang. It was very interesting. I attended, there's lots of workshops. You have to decide which one is an infomercial and which ones are actually, I learned which ones are a commercial and which ones are real information. But great information, great collaboration, lots of folks from Oregon there. And I sat with people from New York and New Mexico and Texas and Louisiana and Montana. And it was just amazing to really hear the differences and the similarities truly of what we're all dealing with when it comes to being a board member. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity and enjoyed and learned so much. And so I just wanted to share that I appreciated the opportunity to go. And there was lots of information to be had. So that was wonderful. All right. Next on our agenda is our quarterly financial report. And I welcome Chief of Human Resources and Business Services, Michelle Riddell.
Good evening, board members. So tonight I'd like to give some highlights from our financial report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2026. The projected ending fund balance for 25-26 is currently forecasted at 72.3 million, or approximately 19.38 of general fund resources. Our revenue is unchanged from the previous forecast, as the trends to date are largely in line with budget and expectations. One area that we are monitoring closely is our state school fund for allocation and potential impacts resulting from our decline in enrollment. Forecasted expenses have been decreased by a total of 2.4 million from the last forecast, which is a result of 4.9 million decrease to the estimate for salaries and benefits, 2 million increase to purchase services, which is primarily due to our increase in substitute costs. And then finally, 530,000 increase to the estimate for our capital outlay. And then finally, as part of the financial report, you have the investment reports showing the type of investment, maturity date, and the fund for which the investment is held. And the district continues to maximize investment in the local government investment pool, as well as other short-term investments, and maintains a healthy cash flow. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you. Do any directors have a question?
I have one.
Yes, Director Wachter.
Thanks, Chair. Appreciate this report. Michelle, can you speak or shed any light on the increased substitute expense? And was it expected? Was it something we were just not quite
I think
budgeting
it's
for?
a little to be expected, but really it's because we've had an increase in both absences and an increase in our fill rate. So I will say our fill rate is now an average of 97%, which is quite an increase. So that's, I think, probably the biggest component.
And do we have a third party that manages the allocation and assignments given out? Are their rates contracted at a certain number and they don't rise? It's just our utilization. Is that
correct? So we actually set the rates.
Okay.
So we get to say what those rates are, but they are doing an amazing job, ESS, in really recruiting, hiring, and then helping fill those for us. So they do a great job managing.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is Community After-School Relationship Enrichment, so CARE, Program Update and Fees. I welcome Chief of Operations Teresa F. Webster, who will introduce our guests.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I am very excited to bring this discussion item. This is a discussion item update this evening. Will come to a future board meeting for action. And it's one of our favorite things to bring to you, our annual report on our CARE program. And I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to Natalie Whistler, our Director of Community Services, for our presentation.
Thank you and good evening. I'm always happy to be here and talk about our elementary care programs. Our elementary care programs provide daily enrichment activities when school is not in session. That includes before school, starting at 6 a.m., after school until 6 p.m., non-school days, breaks, and summer programs. In our after-school program, every day students have a daily meal, recess. They do work and learn in their communities, and they have a daily academic enrichment class. We try to offer students exposure to a broad variety of enrichment content. We do a lot of art, music, physical education, science, health and wellness, and other topics that are high interest, hands-on topics for students. This year, across the board, our favorite enrichment class was the Kids Can Cook class. And I actually just got a parent email last week from an Ardenwald parent saying that their student looks forward to every Tuesday because they get to do cooking, and their student has been so proud to come home and share the skills that they're learning. We have some lovely highlights and wins from our care program team this year. We've been working hard on implementing STOIC framework and CHAMPS so that our behavior expectations and supports align well with our school day, and so that our after school staff support students positively through challenging behavior. We also did a major restructure this year of our kindergarten groups. Over the past couple years, we started to observe that what we had always been doing with kindergartners was not working well with our current kindergarten students. And so we had to rethink things a little bit. So we restructured their daily routine. We reduced kindergarten group sizes slightly. And we restructured their content to make sure that it was truly developmentally appropriate, adding more imaginative play and more intentional skill building time so that students were really understanding those daily routines. They knew how to use the break space in the classroom and tools to self-regulate. Kindergarten teachers that work with kindergarten students all day are magical and wonderful, and our folks that work with kindergarten students at 2 p.m. after they've already completed a full school day also are a magical group of folks to be able to keep our youngest students appropriately engaged. That restructuring was a big success. When I looked at October behavior incidents from 2024 and then 2025. When I pulled out just the incidents for kindergarten students, we saw that we had halved significant behavior incidents for kindergartners. And so that showed us that that was working well for them. Our program uses the Weichert Center's Youth Program Quality Assessment to gather data on how we're doing. Every fall, each of our program sites uses that program quality assessment to gather site level data, and then they meet together as site teams and set improvement goals. So this year, when we went through that process, all 8 of our care sites saw a score increase in their chosen goal areas. So every single team set a goal and made statistically significant progress towards that goal. And when I looked at our average spring youth program quality scores, our average spring score was a 4.56 on a 1 to 5 scale. So that tells me that our sites are using research-based best practices for youth development every day in their work. And we're very proud of that. On top of those things, we had library visits this year from both the Leading and the Happy Valley Libraries. We're thankful for their partnership in building literacy opportunities for our students. And every care site had a monthly community care day celebration. They brought different groups together, worked on projects, and celebrated their community. This is a snapshot of our enrollment and waitlist information, showing information from both the 2024 school year and the current school year. Overall, you can see that our waitlist numbers totals are up slightly, up to 178 for our fall 2025 waitlist. Up from 114. But you'll also notice there are 3 of 8 care sites that did not carry a significant wait list this year. That includes Happy Valley, Scouters Mountain, and Sunnyside. Sunnyside had openings for the majority of the year for the care program. So we are starting to see some sites that are a little bit under enrolled. You can see that Sunnyside and Happy Valley both had a drop in average enrollment as well. So our program has gone through a stage of rapid expansion. We have doubled in size since 2018. And across the bottom of this slide, you can see the years that we've added a new program, with our newest program site joining us in fall of 2024. With that, we are no longer in that rapid expansion phase. We're in a pause and assess phase. We need to keep an eye on that enrollment data and where it's headed. We also need to be careful to consider financial sustainability, the sustainability of staffing, and our department capacity, because along with that site growth, our department hasn't grown at that same rate. Another way that we've grown is in our supports for students experiencing disability. So this year, 70 students received individualized disability-related supports, and we served 7 students who received services in TLC and SLC classrooms. And we're very proud that we provide an inclusive and supportive environment for after school. And also, we need to carefully plan for the support that those students need and the cost that goes along with those supports, which is increasing. So it is important to note that the CARE program is entirely funded by student fees. It's meant to be a self-sustaining program. So when we set out to work out our budget and our program model each year, the goal is that CARE is able to cover its own cost. This year, the program will have a loss of at least $65,000. It could be a bit more. We saw a steep increase in staffing cost with the PERS cost increases hitting this year. When I sat here last year, I projected that the program would still lose a bit of money this year, even with the fee increase that was approved last May. Looking at next year, we are expecting about a 6% staffing cost increase, and staffing accounts for at least 85% of our budget. This year, we provided 50 scholarships totaling $244,000. That's a similar amount to last year. However, the previous 2 years, we were seeing increases of about 30% each year in that scholarship cost. And so we've had to cap our scholarships. That isn't necessarily representative of the scholarship need, but where we've had to cap in order to stay sustainable. For next school year, we're proposing a fee increase of approximately 7 to 8% effective September 1. And here you can see examples of the proposed fee increase, bringing our amount for after-school programs monthly up to $430 from $400. If you look at attachment B, you'll see that we did a market analysis of similar after-school programs, or at least the most comparable programs that are available in our county. And you will see that this still remains the most affordable option, even with a proposed increase. We're also seeing a concerning trend of after-school programs closing or childcare providers no longer being able to offer a before and after-school service to school-age youth. Okay. And I welcome questions.
All right, thank you. Directors, do we have any questions? Yes, Director Dobson.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much. My question is quick. I just wondered if you could clarify, are you capping the number of scholarships you're offering or the amount of each scholarship offered?
The number of scholarships that we offer. So that amount will vary a little bit year over year. Some students will take advantage of, for example, spring break and winter break camp and a full year of services. Others may not need that.
Thank you.
Director McVeigh?
I have about 4. Do you want me to do one at a time and come back each time? Or
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, couple questions. What are the caps or the capacity of these school programs? I see the average enrollment. Do we know what it could serve, or should we assume that what is enrolled is the cap?
Yeah. So we're looking to run at about an average daily attendance of 80 students. Often that means we have around 90 students enrolled to reach that average daily attendance, but that can vary a little bit.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the assumption is in the fall, we look at 80 and then we start a wait list, knowing that some kids won't show up for that day, and then we can take a day drop in or something, or
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we enroll for fall, we usually start at about 90. We'll look at the students who've requested to be on a flex schedule. So for example, they've let us know that they only intend to attend on Tuesday and Thursday, and that will help us estimate our numbers. And then when we hit September, we get readings of a daily attendance and adjust to see if we might be able to enroll a few more students and still stay at that 80 mark.
and this is a fall wait list. So did that improve through the year, or is that still what it is today?
Yeah, most of the sites did improve through the year. A few maintained fairly high. Milwaukee El Puente still had a pretty significant wait list. And the Rex Putnam feeder schools had a fairly significant wait list this year.
Okay. And I just want to say you've made dramatic improvements in the number of sites and increasing. As a board member who all three kids use care before and after, this board member is okay with the loss because the benefit of a family that is able to work that quality of life when they get home is so much better than if one of the family members couldn't work. So
Yeah.
$65,000 lost does not scare this board member. So thank you very much for all you do.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have a question? Director Camp?
I was just curious on the wait list. Is part of that due to caps as far as scholarships?
That did come into play this year. So as we reached the scholarship cap and then we're going through the wait list, there were some families that weren't able to accept the opening because they also needed to wait for a scholarship opening.
Yeah.
And if we had a family that was using a scholarship that unenrolled, we would immediately fill that.
Oh, good. Okay, so you're maximizing all the scholarship money you have.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Right. Director Wachter?
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate Director McVeigh's thought around the total economic value to the community, to those parents. I think that's really, really a great perspective. With the fee increase 7-8%, what do you project the budget? Is that a break even number that we'll achieve for this coming program year?
I'm hoping we can then break even next year. It'll still be close.
Yeah. And what's your leading theory on the lack of wait list in certain locations? I know you're still exploring and looking at the data and figuring it out, but what's your leading theory?
Yeah, I think some schools are a little easier to explain than others. Happy Valley Elementary and Scouters Mountain Elementary have a lot of spots available to them, and then have had historically strong utilization of the program, and we've seen it decline just a little bit. With Sunnyside's drop in enrollment this year, that one I'm not sure. We do poll families when they move on from the program. And at that site, we had a lot of family change. A lot of families cited that they were moving or had a major change of jobs or life circumstances. And that seemed to account for kind of the churn in change we had at that location.
Last question for me. Thank you. If there's capacity in one program at Skyers Mountain, can backlog and wait list from another area, is it offered up to go over to a different site?
Yeah, the tricky thing there is that we have to align transportation to the care sites. And so it's not simple to mid-year change those transportation routes.
There wasn't another. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I do have a quick question. Director McVeigh has the wait list, and there's a little 57 by Vern Duncan on the 0. And then is that just the page number? Okay, he was just wanting to make sure that there wasn't 57 kids on the wait list, Vern Duncan. Okay.
No.
So that clarifies what that 57 is. Got it. All right. Page number. Alrighty. Okay. I had a question about and I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. Is it the Weichert Youth Program Quality Assessment?
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about that? Is that a self-assessment? Who and how do we assess our care programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Love to talk about data assessment. So the Weichert Center Youth Program Quality Assessment is a self-assessment. So each site does self-assessment, and our program coordinator has gone through training to be a validated third-party assessor as well, so she can help our sites calibrate their data, if that makes sense. She can help them go through the process and make sure that they're self-assessing accurately. But our site coordinators, program coordinators, and some of our staff are trained to do an observation and then use the observation against the data assessment tool. And you can find that information on the Weichert Center Youth Program Quality website. It's available fairly publicly, but it was compiled through about 30 years of data on youth out of school time youth programs. So programs like ours that are not school instructional, but offering youth development.
And do we do any kind of a survey with our parents and with the students, especially the older students? Do we do any kind of assessment or survey with them?
We do. We do an annual year-end survey, both with parents and with our older students, asking for our students. We focus on is there an adult that you trust and can talk to? Which activities are most compelling? How do you feel when you attend the program? And we look at that data as well.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much. You know that this is near and dear to my heart. This was the last 4 years of my preschool career was actually before and after school care. And it's I really appreciate Director McVeigh's sentiment that this is so important for our family's quality of life and just the family quality and giving kids really a soft place to land after school. And sometimes that's their work, right? And sometimes your work day is stressful and it's hard. And sometimes it was amazing and you have lots of energy, right? So I just appreciate all the work that goes into that. The staff, it's really about loving care. It's really about taking care of our littles. And
Absolutely.
even if they're older, a little bit older, they're still little and they still need someone to take care of them. And I really just appreciate all of the work and just the thought that goes into making sure that our care program and the dedication that the district has into making sure that we're taking care of as many kids as we possibly can before and after school really speaks well to how well-rounded North Clackamas tries to be. And I really appreciate your dedication to the program. Thank you so much. Did you have one more?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Director McVeigh has one.
Sorry. She always ends it so well, and then I'm ruining it. Do our care program, does it qualify for any ERDC funds?
We do not. We are not registered as a daycare or licensed program, and so we currently aren't able to accept ERDC fees. We've looked into it as a possibility. It would require some pretty significant changes to how we run the program, and in particular to staffing. We would have to change quite a few things there, working through the universal background check process rather than our NCSD background check process, which would mean there would be a waiting time between hiring staff and allowing them to start working in the program. It would also mean that our current staff couldn't sub in the program unless they'd gone through that process and that training. So, for example, if we were having a short staffing day, a highly qualified paraprofessional or even a first grade teacher couldn't sub in the after school program in their own school building because they wouldn't have gone through that system, if that makes sense. So there are a few things keeping us from making that change.
Would our third party staffing agency be able to vet those for us?
We could look into that.
And do we use NCEF scholarship money at all for a CARE program?
CARE does not currently receive funding from NCEF.
But could we request it? Okay, thanks.
And is there something we can advocate for? Is there, in order to accept ERDC, are there, obviously there's some obstacles. I understand that. Are there workarounds? Is there a way to advocate to the right individuals to find ways for things to be at least, not that we don't want to do things properly or correctly or safely, but are there ways for school districts? Are other school districts getting ERDC? Are there other ways to work with that ERDC program?
Yeah, some do and some don't. Unfortunately, at the state level, because the ERDC program is tied to a federal block grant, it's the state interfacing with federal rules that are pretty inflexible. And so, for example, this came up at the recent state school aid childcare rules committee. And that topic was kind of a no-go at that committee. There were some significant roadblocks there with the inflexibility of the federal childcare block grant program.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the clarification too, because I think people just need to understand what is it. It feels like a state program, but then thank you for aligning that with federal program. That's very good. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, excellent. Thank you again for all your information. We appreciate it. All right, next on the agenda is our 2026-27 middle school and high school. Is that where we are? Yeah, we are. Student fee schedules. And I welcome Executive Director of Secondary Programs, Petra Callan.
Oh, there, that's better. I do that every time, and then I have to tell you about it every time. Every year in spring, I come here to talk to you about middle and high school fees. And for the last several years, they have stayed really pretty static. This last school year, or this year, however, I have done some work with our principals in order to revise our fee schedules to make them make a little bit more sense in terms of what our schools need, and also to hopefully be as clear with families as possible and make it as doable as possible as well. So when we had these conversations, we considered a lot of different kinds of options. And so I'm going to talk first about the middle school things that we considered, and then I'll go over into the high school considerations. So our middle school principals felt that a flat fee, kind of like what we do in the elementaries, would be a far more streamlined, easier kind of structure for them as well as families. Part of the reason is that it's a lot less work to figure out, oh my gosh, what am I having to pay for? Which course is my kid taking? And also, our middle schoolers are all involved in electives that require materials. So it is a lot easier than to just say, hey, if you would please pay this flat fee, and then for all of the different elective courses that your students are in, then we can take care of those. Let's see. So in the high school, we talked about that possibility as well, but things got a little bit more complex there for a couple of reasons. One, not all students are taking an elective class that require a lot of materials to purchase. And so if we ask for a flat fee, then in a lot of particular cases, we would be asking for fees from students who weren't necessarily taking these kinds of courses. We thought, well, maybe there would be some kind of hybrid opportunity where we would look for per course on the Sabin-Schallenberg side and maybe a flat fee on the high school side, but that has a lot of potential for confusion. And it still has potentially the problem of asking for fees when a student is not taking the course. So you'll see when I get to what we ended up with that for the high schools, we made some changes to what we had, but we stayed with that same kind of structure of paying fees for the courses that you're signed up for. We also talked about parking fees because oftentimes the conversation comes up, should we ask for more for parking? Because parking, when we provide transportation for students, and so parking is an opportunity to get some more support. The principals really thought about this, and one, they really are trying not to ask for more in fees from students and families, so that is definitely a consideration for them. And also, enforcement is not easy, and higher fees may make that even harder. So their proposal is to keep parking fees as they are and not change those. We also talked about textbook deposits. So for a lot of years, we've asked for deposits from families. And then at the end of the 4 years, this is in high school, the end of the 4 years, if we get all the stuff back and everything is in good shape, then we give the money back. This is a high impact practice. And this is also not easy. And we also don't have as many physical textbooks as we used to. A lot of our stuff has moved to digital. So what the group really decided is that we don't really need to ask for a deposit, but if students are damaging materials or losing materials, we can ask for a fine, like we do with library books, the same sort of concept. So we're looking to take textbook deposits off. So our proposals are a flat fee at the middle school level. And then for both the middle school and high school, we're also looking to delete specific club fees from the course fee sheet, because this fee sheet is really primarily courses. And we had some club stuff in there. I mean, they got in there many years ago. So the whys behind that, I don't have that information. But for example, DECA. And if you're in DECA, there may be a club fee for all of the activities that the club asks for, but those kinds of things are no longer on a course fee sheet. So those are handled as they always have been by most of the clubs individually for those clubs that really require a little additional support. And as I mentioned, we're looking to delete the textbook deposit from the fee sheet, updated the high school course names, and in some cases, nominally increased fees. And as I mentioned before, nobody wants to ask for more money. We all understand as high school and middle school administrators is that the fees that we get from families do not take care of all of the material needs in these courses. They just don't. So what we look for is a little help in sort of taking the edge off the cost a little bit. But we also know that we have to use our own building budgets in order to make sure that that classrooms have the materials that they need. For example, clay and art classes and so on and so forth. So this is what it looks like for the middle school, very nice and streamlined. It looks lovely. And then at the high school, it looks very similar to how it's looked before. And something that I think is helpful on the Sabin-Schallenberg side that you might want to look at is that it's broken up sort of by the kind of program first. So that's sort of how it follows. But then semester fees versus year-long fees. So there are two different kinds of courses. The very introductory courses are semester courses. So that is why it says this is a semester fee and you don't see a year-long fee for that course because it's only a semester course. Then there are year-long courses. And so we just have, instead of wondering, are we doubling the semester course fee or what's happening, we just have the cost for the year-long fee. And as you see on this, these are just some of the courses because not all the courses at Sabin-Schallenberg require that. They're not that material heavy. And then you'll see the student parking still sits on there. Athletics, we're looking to increase the support from, it was before for a lot of years, $175 up to $200 to be very similar with the districts that are surrounding us, and also the increasing costs. It is, everything is getting really a lot more expensive very quickly. So that is really probably the largest increase that we're looking for in the high school. We understand that we need to ask for help from families, but fees can be a hardship for many families. So we do not require them. We ask for them, but if they are a hardship, it doesn't become a sort of a pay to play kind of thing for families in our courses and in our programs. So there are often families that contribute that, they're looking to help support for a lot of kids, and we are grateful for that. And we're grateful for the support that families do provide. And we always are very focused on support, working with families to make sure that there are no undue burdens and that students get to participate and get what they need in their education. All right. What can I answer for y'all?
All right, thank you. Directors, do you have a question? Yes, Director Kim.
It's been a while since my kids were involved in it, but I know with football, lacrosse, and dance team, there were parent clubs that did a lot of fundraising for those programs. And if I remember right, some of those funds were used for scholarships for kids to pay the fees. Is there some of those fees collected for their athletic sports, that $200, does some of that allow the school to offer some scholarships, or is that simply from the parent groups that raise additional funds to cover, the scholarships, I guess, were?
I think primarily boosters really handle that kind of level of scholarship, and how that fee, I would have to get a little bit more information from our athletic director to find out exactly what happens to all that fee and what buckets it goes into, but I can get that information for you.
I mean, I haven't been involved in it for years. I know how a lot of it was spent, but I know some of that money was dedicated for scholarships for certain kids. And I just wasn't sure if that had changed over time. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Director McVeigh.
Do you, I don't even know if state law would allow it, but are any programs at Saban-Schellenberg underwritten by an industry or a business, such as like if there was a major barbering company out there that said, we'll pay for your barbering, we'll underwrite that program for your students? Would that even be allowed?
I don't know all the rules, but I bet you that things like that could run through, like, let's say our foundation. Because they actually do provide some support to Saban-Schellenberg. And so, but I am not the rule lady about all that, like all that, but I'm sure that there are avenues,
Yeah,
I would think.
I just think private industry would be incented to make these programs successful. So it was a thought I had. Thanks.
Yeah, and there's also pathway money that we get and Perkins, and let's hope we continue to see all that at the same levels we have, that also provide a lot of support.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Director Olson.
I just have a question and then a comment. Regarding Chromebooks, is there no Chromebook deposit, or are those like fines if a Chromebook is lost or damaged? And where does insurance come into play in that?
Well, we did have an insurance program for a moment, and that I don't believe we have that anymore. So that that is not really sort of in the secondary programs purview, but I believe we still have a fine structure. Yep.
Okay. Okay. And then my comment is this new revised fee schedule is very clear and easy to read. it gets confusing when you go into the payment portal though, to figure out
Oh,
what
I
you're
bet.
clicking to pay, especially
Yeah.
with like performing arts things where so just from the user end, just a request to maybe try to clean that up too.
Yeah, that is excellent feedback. And I will let folks know that they're making things hard.
I think I've overpaid, but that's okay.
All right. So I have a quick question about, so deleting the textbook deposit. So are we collecting, or do we not know if we are going to collect enough? Do we always collect enough to fix and replace textbooks? Are we always running at a deficit when it comes to fixing and replacing textbooks?
Buildings have not had a problem with that, and it isn't such a really huge problem that most of our stuff is getting damaged. And again, a lot of it, there's like fewer physical things than there used to be. And so, we also have supported like AP and IB textbooks from Measure 98, because eventually there's wear and tear, and we don't expect families and kids to manage just sort of your natural yearly wear and tear. So we help with a lot of those replacements. And then there's, of course, the core curriculum that is supported by teaching and learning. And so but we haven't really had a big problem with that. And again, when there's lost or damaged stuff, we have been able to collect, to collect enough money to handle that.
Are more teachers having classroom sets as opposed to actually checking them out to students? Do we know?
I think most of the time, I mean, that like in middle schools, you have classroom sets of stuff. In the high schools, I think most of them are still checked out to students. Sometimes teachers still have classroom sets when they don't need students to use a book all the time, right? If it's just sort of maybe a little bit more occasional, but normally they're at the high school level, they are often still checked out.
Chair, I would also add that we will actually save money by not doing the textbook deposit fee. Our business department is spending more money trying to reimburse families for the amount of money they're putting and the amount of workload that it is taking as well. So that one for us, I think we will come out ahead, and then given the additional information.
Right, because there used to be a deposit every year.
Yeah.
And then your senior year, you got whatever back, right? So it's very timely.
And costs money in
Yeah.
order to reimburse. We're looking for people 4 years later. A lot of issues with it. So this will actually help with
The bookkeepers will be so happy.
Yes, I am quite sure. And I know, I get it, that fees, we have to do this every spring and we always have to talk about it. And I wish we didn't have to charge for anything.
Yeah.
But aside from a flat fee and not a flat fee or a hybrid, are there any other options that were discussed? I mean, is that is that what the work group looked at mostly? Are we going to do a flat fee, or are we not going to do a flat fee?
Well, we did have a brainstorming session, but besides those kind of different options, we couldn't think of what else that might look like. Now we're always open to any kind of ideas, but we did not come up with other ideas. So,
okay. Well, thank you for this. And I appreciate obviously some thought went into how much we needed to charge. And again, I think it's really important for the community to understand that even though we are raising these fees, the fees do not cover all of the costs of some of these classes. So that's important. And I also appreciate that we don't require it if a family is unable to pay. They don't require it. So I appreciate that as well. And just one more quick thing about athletics. Is there still a way, because I know everyone is getting free lunch and breakfast right now. So is there still a way for students to qualify at the high school level for
yes,
an athletic waiver? Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay. I believe that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. We are moving on. Okay, next on the agenda is the 612 Social Studies Curriculum Adoption. I welcome Executive Director of Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development, Tammy O'Neill, who will introduce our guests.
Yes, absolutely. We're excited to be here with you tonight. I am here to bring forward for your consideration our recommendation for the adoption of 612 curriculum for social studies. And here today to present is our Associate Director, Lori Meisner. You'll remember her coming forward tonight. But we have a new face here as well. This is Matthew Misley, and he is our instructional coach who supports K-12 social studies. And I just have to say, if you know social studies teacher, they are a difficult group. They do not suffer fools, and they I've never had a coach get such accolades in regards to a staff member supporting them. So I know you're going to be so thrilled with the engagement and hard work he put in to engage our teachers and our students. So take it away, friends.
Okay. All right. Good evening, directors. Thank you for having us. We're very excited to share the work that our teachers have been doing really over the last kind of year and a half, but that's really ramped up since the fall into today. So we're going to do some overview of the program, talk about our process, talk about our recommendation, and then answer questions for you at the end. We will start with kind of looking at our Division 22 requirements that we begin our instructional materials adoption process through. I really like kind of that last line. I think it's the piece that really reflects what we're doing in this process, which is to adopt materials that are in alignment with the district program, the course or grade, and reflect the knowledge, trends, and technology in the field. I think that includes current methodologies and approaches in social sciences. Okay. Before we get too far into the secondary piece, I want to give you a brief update on where we are with K-5, because tonight we're just talking about 612. As you're aware, ODE has approved our request for a postponement of the K-5 social studies instructional materials adoption for up to 2 school years. That implementation will start no later than fall of 2028. And while we're in that postponement period, our K-5 teachers will maintain access to not only the updated 2024 social studies standards, but ODE's required tribal history, shared history lessons, which are now available K-5, 8, and 10th grades, as well as our new Zella subscription for our teachers in that process. So short update on that. Thank you. We start this work with our district's strategic direction, and our mission really aligns well with some of the beliefs and values that are oriented in social sciences. So inspiring graduates who are empowered to act with courage in life and to strengthen local and global communities. The empower to act and to strengthen local and global communities is a very prominent value in social science inquiry-based education, where students are examining their world and thinking of the world to come. And we have oriented this process through our pillar or our compass point in student success that allows us to look at materials and assessments for each student's learning. Next slide. There we go. Here's a quick look at our overall social studies program here in North Clackamas for secondary. In middle school, students take a grade level social studies course. We are very fortunate in 2 of our middle schools to be offering that social studies course in Spanish for our students who participate in the dual language instruction program. In high school, you can see course titles that have been around for a long time: World History, Government, U.S. History, and Economics. Sometimes people use civics interchangeably with government. And then with the additions of our AP and IB programming, we have a variety of offerings that are available in that program as well. We are not purchasing or we're not making recommendations for our AP and IB courses. That's a different process. But everything in the white is what we took into consideration for this process. I do want to recognize here that our ELD program, our service model for English learners, is integrated into our social studies courses at our secondary level. And so this process was done side by side with social studies teachers and English language development specialists. Little later in the presentation, Matthew's going to share with you some of our local metric components that we were evaluating for, and you'll see the prominence of looking at materials that support English language learners in reading, writing, listening, and speaking, as well as access to content in that process. So just a special note about our English learners. ODE helps guide us through this work of adopting instructional materials. This is a quote that they really center their processes, their guidance, and their resources for districts in. I will read it to you. A growing and compelling research base suggests that high-quality instructional materials can yield improvements in student learning outcomes equal to or greater than many interventions that are more costly. High-quality instructional materials are about bringing equity to the district, a shared experience creating a floor, but not a ceiling, around the teaching and learning that happens in our classrooms. Instructional materials allow us to set a really firm foundation on what grade level expectations are in alignment with those standards. It allows us to keep expectations and rigor high for our children, but makes the potential for learning limitless. And so we take this process very seriously. And our teachers really, really scrutinize the available materials this year. Next slide. So there's a picture of our amazing teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week for them. And they are working on this process that ODE allows us to kind of choose one of two initial routes. We can either purchase off of ODE's list that they provide districts. They go through a year-long process of looking at materials, or districts can conduct an independent adoption. We were very fortunate this year that ODE had a very long list of materials to choose from. And so we elected to purchase from that list and review materials from that list. What's nice about that process is they do an initial review of all the materials and provide districts with all of the data. It's a big statewide kind of year-long thing called the IMET tool. And that's a wonderful place for districts to start because we're starting with a huge amount of data on the products. And then we provide a local metric beyond that. So we are moving forward with looking at the materials list. We have the next one. Okay, the big reveal. Tonight, we're going to be recommending to you a product called Teachers Curriculum Institute, TCI, History Alive. And this is the product that our team, grades 6 through 12, selected, which I really was surprised in that process to see such consensus on a singular product over so many grades. Matthew will get a little into more of the details on the things they looked at, the different products they looked at, and at the different courses. But this is a really exciting curriculum that has supports digitally as well as in textbook or paper format. And these will be class sets, as you were wondering from the previous question, for our classrooms. We are not formally adopting any supplemental materials. Our teachers still will remain access to ODE's Tribal History, Shared History required lessons, as well as the educational resources provided by the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, in addition to some other resources provided through ODE's website that meet some of their legislation. All right. If you have followed social science here in Oregon, you will know that there have been very significant legislative changes to what students study over the last 7 years. And it began with the House bill on the right, Ethnic Studies and Inclusive Education. And that was changing some of the state standards to move from multicultural standards into ethnic study standards and having those sort of interwoven rather than isolated standards. In addition, Oregon passed legislation on tribal history, shared history that requires school districts to provide specific lessons created by the Oregon Department of Education at grades initially 4, 8, and 10, and now they're up to K5, 8, and 10. And what's unique about that legislation is it's not just required in social studies, it's required across the 5 content areas. So there are required lessons in language arts, math, science, social studies, and health PE. Following that one, Holocaust and Other Genocides was a Senate bill that came through. This has identified 9 learning concepts that must be integrated into curriculum. And the last one is the civics requirements about offering a semester-long civics course in Oregon schools. We have been and continue to be in compliance with all of this legislation. And the materials adoption process is allowing us to look at a resource that brings all of it together rather than having so many separate pieces of resource that we pull from. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, board.
Oh.
One of the, yep, there you go.
Now you're okay.
Perfect. Thank you. One of the more notable changes for the social studies standards, outside of just the content, we usually think of like this specific happening, this specific event, the Bill of Rights, all those things. A new aspect of that are called the essential disciplinary practices. These are basically reworded historical thinking skills that were previously part of the standards. But now ODE has pulled them out and they act as a blanket for all social studies standards at all levels. So the essential disciplinary practices you see up here, there are 10 of them, so let's not read all of them. But they're somewhat similar to an NGSS, cross-cutting concepts, things that you would expect to see throughout various courses, throughout various units, and should be applied intentionally to the content standards. We spent some time as a department, both at the middle and high level, really digging into these and taking the time to discuss them across district and across content areas to look at which ones kind of spoke to our teachers and students the most. And the 2 that kind of bubbled up to the top are number 4, seek and analyze diverse perspectives to develop a more complete understanding of past and current events, and EDP 6, construct well-reasoned and logically coherent explanations, arguments, and solutions related to complex societal issues. And so that was one of the earlier things that we did to set some groundwork for what we wanted to see out of instructional materials as part of our gathering input stage. We also had different cross-district surveys going out on what type of support would you like to see in the materials, what don't you want to see, what do you think is going to be most impactful for supporting English language development students explicitly in social studies, since we co-teach, and a number of other questions. Another portion that we did was the middle school teacher leaders and myself were able to conduct student empathy interviews. We completed 70 plus at the 6-12 level, trying to make sure that we are not getting ahead of ourselves and always trying to center the students, right? We are here to serve the students, And we need to make sure that their voice and their perspective is not lost because they are the ones who are ultimately receiving those materials in instruction. So what works well for them? What have been times when you've been really excited about social studies? What are some times where it's been a struggle? Where do you see yourself using social studies in the future? Some general questions like that. I had the honor of conducting those at the high school level, and it was really great to talk to such a wide range of students. And the teachers were very intentional about making sure that we tried to reach a wide variety of students, and that we had very good representation for the types of responses that we were getting. Part of the process is piloting the materials and making sure that it actually does what we hope or think it might do. And so we had 577 piloting student surveys who experienced one or more materials in a classroom lesson to kind of see how it goes. And our adoption committee was made up of social studies teachers and ELD teachers, so 22 teachers in total, as well as 7 administrators on the committee. We also, to support our DLI colleagues, which I think is extremely important, and I really have to recognize all of our social studies teachers as well, who are very adamant that not only do we adopt materials that will support ELD in all classes, but that we work to get strong instructional materials for their DLI colleagues as well. And we were able to run a parallel but very similar process with our DLI teachers and have them run some lessons and pilot some lessons as well. So ultimately, we looked at seven different publishers. As Lori mentioned, the list was robust this year, which was awesome. That is not always the case. Sometimes there is one or two. But we had many options. We had at least 4 options at each different subject level and or grade band. We looked at 4 different publisher materials per course or grade band. And ultimately, after a initial evaluation round using our metric, which I'll show you shortly, we published materials from TCI and Traverse and Cengage. Which one? We did TCI piloting at all levels, and then Traverse the middle school, and then subject dependent on Cengage or Traverse, since each one is approved independently by ODE. And part of our cross-district discussions, I wanted to provide a kind of a high-level takeaway of some of those things that kind of came up and then influenced the evaluation process. When we asked our middle school and high school staff, what do you want new materials to do for your students? 4 main things I think came up. The need for accessibility for English language development, as well as students receiving specialized instruction, was very important for all of our teachers, and making sure that we could adapt it and just make sure it works for all students as much as possible every day. Also, multiple perspectives, making sure that we are being true to those essential disciplinary practices that I mentioned. A very important part of doing any type of social science, I think, and history work is exposing people to multiple stories and perspectives and narratives. I also am thankful that our teachers are very keyed into the idea of like, we can do that and it needs to be literacy driven. And we need the materials to do that and support that. It needs to be relevant to what a social scientist or an economist or someone who studies civics needs to do. We want to support critical thinking. We want it to be engaging. And we want some continuity and the ability to build on skills and really level up thinking and action. So I think we've planted some good seeds in that soil to continue that work. And then engaging as well. We can all remember a social studies class that was engaging and awesome, and maybe there's some others on the other side of that spectrum as well. And our teachers work very hard to keep it on the good side. And the more that we can intentionally evaluate materials to support that for engagement and deeper learning for our students, the better. I wanted to share 4 quotes from our students, 2 from the middle school and 2 from high school, just so you could get a little taste of the values of the students and how we're trying to center what the students are experiencing and hoping in social studies. One of the questions was thinking about all of the years you've been in social studies, what is a positive experience you've had in that class? For our high school student, I feel like it's made me understand the world more and like how we've come to be, because learning about history has made me a more understanding person and made me more able to know more about what is going on in the world right now. And from one of our middle school students, something good was when we had a group hunter-gatherer simulation. I got to, side note, I got to observe that one in action, or one of those. I liked how everyone was helping each other and there was so much teamwork. And then if you, with our poor font choice, same question. Last year in ninth grade, Miss Gibson at Clackamas High School did a French Revolution simulation that was very interactive, and you got to see how the pyramid of people worked. You got to reenact it and got to see how bad the system was and how the economy and elections worked. And from one of our middle school students, a positive thing is to learn about cultures, to learn about other cultures, and then for students to also learn about mine. We've been learning about culture this week, and we talked about beliefs and foods. And I think these 4 quotes are pretty representative of the responses overall from our students. But I like them because I think they speak really directly to some of the categories of evidence for our evaluation tool and how well TCI meets those. So here is our local evaluation tool. So I've just given you the high level view of all of these things that we've just kind of talked about and spent months on. Basically came down to a 3-point rubric, and then running through each materials in groups independently and then in groups, and coming to consensus scoring on how much evidence of these priorities that they see in the materials. So our first one is our high 5 support. So making sure that the materials provide a good base for strong instructional practices, such as built-in opportunities for feedback, accountable talk, metacognition, group work, all those types of things. Making sure that the materials have built-in accessible supports for students receiving specialized instruction. For C, you'll see built-in specific supports for English language development support. D, activities and projects, like you heard from our student empathy interviews. TCI, this is kind of their calling card and something that they do really well. So you'll see that it's a 3, the highest out of there. Multiple and diverse perspectives and literacy supports to address complex societal issue are 2 essential disciplinary practices that are some of our priority ones that we've been focusing on. And then one other one that I haven't spoken a lot about, but came up in empathy interviews, was students really resonated with opportunities and craved opportunities to go more in depth. Either like we spent a lot of time really digging into this and I feel like I really understood it, or man, I really like that thing and I wanted to spend a lot of time on it. So it's great to have students who are like, I like social studies. I like learning about other cultures. I appreciate it when my teachers spend the time to find activities that are meaningful and engaging, and let me go deeper. And so here's the scorecard for TCI and McGraw-Hill for U.S. history, and I think it's fairly reflective of everything overall. And then here is a snapshot of some of our responses from the pilot. These aren't normed as much. You'll see kind of 4s and some 2s and 3s. They weren't all on a perfect like 1 to 4, 1 to 5 scale. But we wanted to make sure that when we got the materials in front of students, that we didn't just ask for the teacher experience, although we did that. But we wanted to make sure that like the students had an opportunity to share across grade levels and subject levels, and give us some insight on, well, how you're the one who's here interacting with the materials. How's it working? So those questions were, when you were using the materials, especially any digital platforms, how easy was it for you as a student to navigate that? And TCI scoring well there. How well did the lesson keep your attention? Trying to measure self-reported student engagement on that. I like this question a lot. how confident are you on a scale of 1 to 5 that you could describe the purpose and goal of this lesson to a family member or a friend? And TCI rating pretty strongly on that one. Did the materials challenge you to think critically or in new ways, or just rote memorization? A higher score represents greater challenge and critical thinking. And then if you were the teacher, would you use these materials again? And TCI and Traverse here, the scores are fairly reflective of what you would see, whether that was just high school or econ or whatever the metric was.
All right, did we miss a slide? I believe we did. I think we're just missing the slide right after this one. Ah, there it is. Okay.
There we go. We knew our slide deck, man. We knew, right?
Like,
That's a lot of
I have it
slides.
right here.
As you can see, this was an adoption that was highly centered on collecting feedback from our students, especially being a secondary adoption. We have a lot of student voice in here. Our community is able to review these products digitally on our website. Those are up and posted. They can see there are like it's not a student text, but there's like a student textbook kind of piece, but that's also all available digitally as well. So the community has access to that. And we will be we're collecting feedback. We'd like to leave that open for a little longer, and we have a form for that. And then I think the last one is the question.
Okay. All right. There we go. Our final slide. All right. Directors, does anyone have any questions? Director McVeigh.
So that last one was my question, because normally on curriculum adoption, we get a lot of family input. And so how are we gathering that? So that's great. What percentage of the curriculum is digital versus?
For TCI specifically?
Yeah.
So everything that TCI has is available both digitally and in physical form. And we're making the recommendation, or we'll be moving towards class sets of textbooks and then also full digital access for staff and students. And one of the things that TCI does especially well, as evidenced by our evaluation tool and student feedback, is those in-person activities. And so they have, depending on the unit, that might be like a trading simulation, use it on the Silk Road. They have that, yeah, there are many. But so it will kind of depend on like how you are accessing the.
Okay. So the reason why I asked that question, I feel like there's this, not a resurgence, but with the announcement of Los Angeles School District not going to any digital curriculum.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing it in my workplace, people who have kids, my kids are not in school anymore, that they're happy about that and they're hoping that Oregon goes to that. And so I'm just wondering if that ever gets there, yeah, there's a real balance of using both, I'm sure. So.
Yeah.
Interesting conversation, especially for social studies. Things change quickly.
They change very quickly. Yeah. Yeah. I still have encyclopedias in a bookcase somewhere.
I think it's also worth pointing out that all of the materials are offered bilingually, from the teacher edition to the student, but like every aspect.
Yeah.
And that is uncommon in a curricular product, to have everything available for both the teacher and student level. And so
That's
this
nice,
is
yeah.
really supporting our DLI programming.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Director Kemp.
I'm just curious, and it may not have been part of the evaluation, but is there, I know these curriculums can be expensive. Was there a wide variation, or were these all in a similar cost range? Or was there the cost of one program really, despite how good it might be, it was just unaffordable?
I'm not even sure how to answer it because they're so different in the products they offer and the professional development that might be included in those. Traverse, for example, is a very digital heavy product with very little physical product. Cengage, was that the one with the giant? Like really heavy on the materials piece. Licenses are renewed annually with digital products where they're not. It would be hard to compare apples to apples. And we did not quote out everything in super depth until we got to these later stages.
I'll tell you, Paul, though, that there aren't a lot of school districts who are able to do robust adoptions right now. There just aren't. And I do contribute to our financial responsibility that we are. So I'll be honest with you, they give me the bill and we pay it because it's what our teachers recognize was the best thing for our kids. We are able to do that right now.
Yeah.
In 2 years, I don't know. We know that things are rapidly changing, but I mean, we see right now, we know what the research says about the importance of having quality, research-based, inclusive, materials for our teachers to use, both for their workload and for the instruction. And so, I mean, that's certainly a commitment that we've been able to make so far, because we've been wise with our resources.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so that's good to hear that you weren't necessarily hemmed in by a budgetary reason and being able to pick the best program overall. Thank you.
All right. Director Dobson.
Thank you, Chair. Are there other districts in the state that have adopted this curriculum, and were you engaged with them at all in their experience, how things have worked out, whether they would do it again?
Yeah. There's definitely, this is several districts, I think in the area, I think you might even know them by name, are pursuing this product. During the evaluation process, we wanted to keep this pretty local so that we were honoring our context here and our needs. But I think post-adoption process, it provides an amazing opportunity either through our ESD or just our neighboring partners to look at how might professional development work, and sharing that kind of cross-district, knowing that people might be using similar products.
All right, Director Wachter, no. Director Olson?
You asked something that I just wanted to kind of reiterate that I think there is, great value in kind of knowing that that even though you went through an independent product or process, that the product is one that is consistently being considered for adoption by many districts around our region, which does provide a great opportunity to leverage professional learning, teaching and learning resources against each other. And I also just wanted to say that the cost amount here, I mean, nice job if there was any negotiation that happened, because this is very reasonable for a 6 through 12 high quality instructional material adoption. So thank you.
All right, and I just had, it just went out of my brain. I just had one question. that I've been thinking this whole time, and now my brain, it is gone. Oh my gosh. I think I had something to do with the curriculum. Oh, okay.
Over and over.
No. No, does not say all work and no play. So I think it's great that we found something that we like, but there's always things missing. So where are the gaps and how are we filling them?
Yeah.
I'll speak to
You
that.
wanna take it?
Yeah. That is something that, having done an adoption at my previous district, which was there were 3 people in the whole high school department. So it was pretty much just me. And then checking in with my friends and my coworkers. That is something that, any publisher or someone who's selling you something will say this will solve all your problems.
Right.
And then what I was telling our curriculum team was like, okay, let's put it to the sniff test. Let's see. Let's dig in and let's be clear-eyed about this, that no one product is going to do everything. It's not written for North Clackamas. It's written to cast a very wide net and hit many markets, right? And so when we look at these, we want to just be clear-eyed and say, what does it do well? Are those aligned to the North Clackamas needs for students and for teachers? And then when we see those, what are those gaps? And then how do we identify them? And so after we came to consensus on our last adoption meeting, our adoption committee members started doing some of that work and saying, okay, so where's our, there's this much materials and there's this much time and this many standards. So how do you start taking the product and going from theory to practice? And where are those holes where TCI says, oh, well, it doesn't really do this all that well, or like this perspective is kind of missing. Say I'm just kind of making an example up, but if you're reading about like the history of the West and Oregon, we would want to think about ways to make sure that we're talking about the history of Oregon and the exclusion in laws, bringing in things like, more modern, like Vanport at the high school level, and making sure that our students, always see themselves in the history and know that they're part of that story, but also know that Oregon is part of that story. Milwaukee's part of that story. Clackamas is part of that story. And what type of perspectives are kind of missing, and then using teacher expertise, what are strong supplements that we can then get into a curriculum guide to put out for everybody? It says, with a little brief explanation of like, it would be really great to make sure we highlight this. Please consider using this resource in addition to the resources in this lesson. So yeah, great question.
Excellent, because I think honestly, when it comes to teaching and learning and curriculum, you can get sold what you think is a really great curriculum, right? But the reality is it's not going to fill every hole. It's not going to do everything we want it to do. And I think that we have to be smart, and we have to be smart from the beginning. So thank you for thinking of the pieces that are missing and how do we fill the gaps for our kids. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Are there any other follow-up questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Next on the agenda is our 26-27 board meeting calendar. I'm going to be asking for a motion shortly, but I wanted to remind our community and the board is in consensus to move meetings to 6 p.m. So, and this does not happen until July. So nobody worry. You weren't late tonight. 6 o'clock starting in July. The calendar also allows the board meetings to be held virtually as needed. Now, we talked about possibly going to one board meeting, but as you can see, by the time of the hour, by the hour of the evening right now, that if we only did this once a month, we would be here for a really long time. And so that's probably, in a district of our size, is probably not something that is as feasible. However, if we have lighter board meetings, which has not happened so far, but if we ever find ourselves in a board meeting that is very, very light, there is a way for board chairs at their discretion to make one of those meetings virtual if it's going to be a very light meeting. And then we also have holds on the schedule. You can see those. We have holds for special meetings throughout the year. So there's holds for governance and for special meetings that we might need throughout the year. So given that, and we already had the discussion, I believe, to have the first meeting in July 9th. Given the holiday around the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we don't want to have a meeting at that point. So you've all had time to look at that schedule. So I am going to entertain a motion as to approving the 2026-27 board calendar.
So moved.
Excellent. Do we have a second? All right. It has been moved by Director McVeigh and seconded by Director Wachter that we adopt the 2026-27 board meeting calendar. Any discussion or questions?
Just that there are, because of my work schedule, a lot of Thursdays that I might miss because in the budget season. So
Okay.
it looks like we moved our meetings because of budget meetings and Thursdays. So but I'll be fine.
A little bit of shifting
I
for
might-
budget.
I might
Yeah.
just be a little bit late for those meetings.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And so all those in favor will vote by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Excellent. Motion passes 6-0. Excellent. Next on the agenda is the process for filling our board vacancy. You will find the board application in your packet. If this process is approved tonight, the application will be open to the public beginning tomorrow, May 8th, and will close on May 21st. Is there any discussion before we entertain a motion? All right. Is there a motion to approve? And I do need the full motion.
Where's your script? Where's your script?
Before you say so moved.
Chair, I move that we approve the proposed list of questions for applicants to replace a board member
And the process
and the process
to fill the
to
position
fill the position.
as of June 17th.
Where are you reading?
As of June 17th.
As of June
2026.
17th.
Excellent. You got it.
I don't-
Spot on. Is there a second?
That was tricky.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Director Walker and seconded by Director Olson that we approve the process to appoint a replacement to fill the position of Board Director April Dobson, vacant as of June 17th, 2026. Are there any questions? Excellent. Let's vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion passes with a vote of 6-0. Thank you very much. That was a big one. I get it. All right. So as we round out the evening, I want to remind you that the NCEF Gala is next Thursday. So if you have nothing to do at 5:30 on the 14th of May, please buy your ticket and join us at Gray Gables for the North Clackamas Education Foundation Let's Grow Together Gala. But I want to leave you with a quote for the evening of Yuri Kochiyama. She was a Japanese American activist, dedicated her life to civil rights and social justice. After being interned during World War II, she moved to Harlem and fought for Black liberation, Asian American empowerment, and reparations for Japanese internees. And I love this quote of hers. And it's, "Life is not what you alone make it. Life is the input of everyone who touched your life and every experience that entered it. And we are all part of one another." So as we go forth tonight, we are adjourned at 8:42 p.m. and this board meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us.